trauma is real. PTSD is real.
Yeah.
And reliving those events happen more often than not for a lot of different veterans.
Yeah.
And it might just feel like they pushing you aside or you feel displaced or whatever the case is. But a lot of them that don't get help, they wind up self-medicating or learning ways to cope within themselves. And it wind up being those detrimental ways, and it wind up having issues with your family. So, the divorce rate is so high, tend to lose their job and or just be a menace to society and just have reckless behavior follow them because they don't know how to process or don't feel like they have an outlet. So I would encourage those family members to, one, exercise patience and understand that it is going to be different because your loved one is different. They had an experience that was probably one of the most chaotic and fulfilling things to them. I know that's oxymoronic, but like when you in it, you gun-ho because like this is survival. I got to do what I got to do to survive.
Yeah.
So you're not really thinking about things that are back home. You're thinking about them. You hoping that everything is well, but you're focused on the now because if I slip up or if I'm too emotional, it can be life or death depending on what your job is,
Right, yeah.
So those distractions of home can potentially be catastrophic while you in theater or combat zone, however you want to phrase it. Sometimes you got to be like, all right, look, let's save this, come back to it so we ain't messing up the day or whatever.
Yeah.
Or just continue to have those discussions to understand, like, all right, I got somebody I can communicate with, somebody that's open, somebody that's expressive. The last thing you want to do is be in a position or in a relationship where you feel like you can't go to this person or you feel like this person can't come to you or whatever. Like, is that a real relationship? Is that a partnership? Is that a bond that you probably don't want to do? Now you're in a situation and you got all these other things festering. You probably gonna resent yourself and definitely probably resent your partner for even being in that situation. Healing is not one of those things with a set destination, so you can't say I'm gonna do X, Y, Z and I'm gonna be healed.
Okay.
Like that's continuous work, So also you gotta think too, like, is this the person that I wanna be with? Am I gonna be with this person? Because probably 70% of relationships start based on attraction.
Okay.
Not necessarily compatibility. So you with this person based on attraction, not really compatibility. So are y'all really supposed to be together? Like, can y'all foster when things get tough? Like, is this your person? Is this where you want to be ultimately? End goal, family, the house, lifestyle, all those things has to be answered throughout that. Don't feel like you only have to go to the ones that the insurance company say you have to go through. You can do your own research. Secondly, I think it's one of those things to where you should interview that said therapist, meaning ask them questions. Hey, have you ever worked with Black people before? Have you ever worked with men before? How do you feel about, name some issues that are dear to you, whether that's, hey, like if you LGBTQ, you want to know if this therapist is competent or work with people of that community. Or if you from the projects, you want to know how they feel or what are their thoughts or what are their practices within assisting people from whatever said subculture they're from. That's the main thing. And I think it's one of those things where people don't know how to advocate for themselves or ask for what they want in a therapist because they think it's one of those things that you got to go to. So the traumatic standpoint, it doesn't have to do with anything that you went through individually or specifically. It can be something that you witnessed. The complexity of it, the complex part is the repeated part of it, that current situations, day after day, week after week, year after year. And back to suppression, trauma can be one of those things that you suppress for years, not touch it. This happened, I ain't gonna think about it no more, I'm moving on with my life. Then all of a sudden, when you least expect it, you hear something or you smell something, like your senses get activated and you realize like, yo, I never dealt with that. Now it's coming up in my relationship, or now it's coming up at work, or now it's coming up that I got kids, so that's why the suppression part is not good. Managing or processing is where you want to be. Complex trauma is one of those things, repeated exposure to whatever that traumatic situation is. So for a Black man, it's pretty much literally existing because we got, it's some stuff going on at work. It's some systemic issues that above us. It's some political issues that are above us. So that systemic issues or those concurrent issues that day to day, like the example I gave of the police, like, or those microaggressions that be happening, that's complex trauma. Those repeated issues throughout. Of course, the regular trauma is those things that affect your ability to have resistance within that. So you can have a traumatic experience and you might not be able to recover from it at that said time. But trauma also is one of those things, again, like I mentioned earlier, it's not something that you have to do directly. It could have been something that you witnessed.
Right.
And a lot of people do suppress trauma because they don't know that it was a traumatic experience. So if somebody do have depression, first thing they want to do is identify their resources. Then they want to identify those triggers to what's putting them in that state of depression. And sometimes it's that, oh, I can't keep thinking about this, or I can't keep going through this. Let me work on that, or let me change that.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it's not as direct as one of those things. So you would have to do the work and uncover what it is that's leading you to have depression, so it can be prevented and or treated so it doesn't escalate or lead to suicide. Loneliness and isolation is different. You know, it's people want to be alone sometimes. You want to just share whatever. Isolating is being intentional about, I'm not going around people, whatever the case is. So you want to make sure you're paying attention to those signs. Some people even talk about dying like it's a regular thing. Like, and then some people have those thoughts of, hey, life would be so much easier if I wasn't here. So you want to address those things if you ever encounter a friend or somebody who have those thoughts or have those feelings. Ask those questions. It's easier to lose that friendship than for that friend to lose his life. My brother, listen, I want you to ignore the perception of others. Do what's best for you in these situations. You definitely want to ensure that if you need help, you're getting help, whether that's you doing the self-work yourself, whether that's lifestyle changes or choices, and or seeing somebody. It's okay to process those things. It's also okay to feel your feelings. So do what else you need to do for you and ignore the perception of others. If you listen to others, you're going to have the mindset of they're going to judge me for going, or they're going to vilify me for going, or they're going to say I'm soft, I'm weak, or whatever the case is. If I express emotions or display my feelings, ignore all that, man. Do what's best for you, because again, you're going to help yourself. Then you're going to vicariously help the people around you, which is probably your family, which in most cases would then better a community and so much other spaces that we can be a part of and grow within. So definitely ignore the perception of others and do what's best for you in those situations.
Sometimes I know you feel like you ain't got nobody to speak to. Shoulder to lean on somebody you could preach to. Know you need to hear it, my brother.